Hey guys, this is Lucas from Better Coding Academy, and in this video I talk to Benjamin again, and we go over another one of our projects from within the vanilla JavaScript curriculum. Now this project focuses on generators and focuses on a lot of JavaScript syntax in terms of data flow, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So maybe just like run me through where you're at now, and we'll just kind of go from there and see what I can help you with.
Okay, so right now, I need to find out a way to get the generator function working, basically.
Yep.
That's what I need to do right now. I've got all the other supporting functions working.
Yep.
Well, maybe not the best way, but at least it works.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And right now, what I want to do is I want to loop through the generator function so that it keeps throwing me the next position given a direction, basically.
Right. Okay. So basically, what you've got now is all of the functions except for the create night generator are working fine.
Yeah, the generator function, yes.
Right. So your generator is broken. Everything else is good. Okay.
Yes.
So what is it giving you right now? Like, is it just completely dead, or like, can you show me the output in
So basically,
terminal?
this is what it's throwing me right now.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it stops after.
Wait, why does it have? So wait. Which lines am I looking at? This one here.
Yeah.
And that one. Can you comment out all the other console logs so I can just see like,
Sure.
only your output?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we'll go from there. Cool. Okay. Yep. And just that one as well. And just do it again. Okay. Cool. So we've got A1, B3, A1, not a number, done false. Okay. So, let's see what that's meant to be. So you got do you have a picture of a chessboard we can open up in Google Chrome?
Yeah.
Maybe just search up on like Google Images like chessboard or something, and we'll just go from there. Makes it a little bit easier.
Chessboard.
Okay, and just get one with like the numbers on the side.
Yeah, this one's good.
Yeah, maybe third one across from the top. Yeah, that one or something. Okay, cool. So, our night starts in let's see. So you've got okay, so your night starts on A1, and you move okay, so the first one has to be there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So forget that for a second. So you go northeast, east, south, northwest. Okay.
Yep.
And the first one means it moves by 2. Is that correct?
You mean this one, right?
Yeah. So the N, the N means
go up 2.
North 2.
And
okay.
and
then E means
1.
Go east 1.
Yep.
Okay. So northeast, east, south, northwest. Okay. So northeast, east, south, and then what was it? Northwest. Northwest.
Yeah.
So that's C4. Sorry? Yeah, so it should be at C4, but yours isn't going to C4.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you're 100% certain that your par's starting position, par's move direction, are those correct?
Yeah. I console logged down here, and I tested them.
Okay, so you tested it and they're working.
Yeah.
And what's wrong? Oh, okay. So maybe let's just.
So what I think
let's see.
wrong
is
this part here. So this takes in the position, right? Like it assumes it's always a letter and a number, so like a position instead of a direction. And then when I start to, pass starting position and stuff and add it together, it just screws up.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think you've got a couple problems here.
Okay.
First problem is that. Okay, so you've got your so this is your generators here.
Yeah.
And you've got a while loop, an infinite loop here. Yeah. So the problem with that is that because the only thing you have is an infinite loop.
Right.
Nothing is being like stored in your generator. Like, does that make sense? Because okay, so when you have your generator and it runs for the first time, right?
Yeah.
It goes through the while loop one time, and a whole bunch of stuff happens, but then nothing is preserved in the generator. Because let's just say you do so you do .next, and when you do .next the second time and you run the while loop a second time, what actually happens is all of this information inside of here is forgotten, right? Because like you output to the console, or whatever, that's fine, but the position of your knight isn't being remembered anywhere inside of your code. Do you see what I mean?
I see.
Because the const and the let, they're all scoped to this while loop.
Yeah.
So once the while loop is done, so what I think you should have done, okay, what you should do is you should have something here between your function, the generator function, and the while loop. So you should have something in between there, which kind of says, hey, I'm going to have a position, and you're going to like have this position in some sort of variable like a let, right?
Yeah.
So you have something which is basically like it's kind of stored there.
Mhm.
It remains there and you change it, right? So it's like an internal storage inside of your generator. So every single time you create a new instance of the generator, you have information that's actually being stored. So this information that you want to store in this particular case is related to your knight. So you want to store where your knight is
Yes,
at all times, basically.
that's right. So should
So maybe you can start from there. So like maybe we can have some sort of figure out like what do you think the best way to do that is?
I?
You could have knight position, but what I'm thinking here is maybe okay. Go on, just keep writing, and we'll see
Like
from there.
I need to pass the result to it basically because that's what result contains. The
Yeah, just forget about that for now.
mm,
Just first thing you need to do is create a mechanism to store the position of the knight. That's the first thing you need to do.
that's the starting position basically.
Okay, so you're passing it right now. You're passing it a string. You're passing it a1.
Yes.
Is that the best thing you can pass it? Is my question.
Mm, yes.
Because obviously there are many ways to store this information, right? Like you can store the position of the knight as a1, as you said.
Yeah.
You can also store it as a mixture of columns and rows, right? So like you could say a1 is column 1, row 1, or whatever that means, right?
Right.
Or you could, you know, there are many ways you can do it. You could have a unique ID for every single
Yeah.
square.
Yeah.
So you could have like A1 is 1, B1 is 2, but A2 is square 9 or something like that. You know, so you can do whatever you want here.
Mm.
But the real question is, what do you think is the best way to store it in this particular instance, and why?
Oh, I think we should store it as columns and rows or like as an object.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, because later on when we get past a direction, right, we can basically break that down into columns and rows as well, right?
Yep, I agree. I agree because the idea of having columns and
Mm.
rows as numbers is the main benefit of that is that you can add and
Yes.
subtract columns and rows
That's right.
as you see fit. You can also compare. So that's really helpful. If you have like A1, you have to constantly decode A1 every single
Yeah.
time. So that just adds unnecessary computational complexity. So then in that situation,
Mm.
you can't just write knight position equals position. So what would you do instead? Because you just told me
Yeah.
that you want to store an object with column and row. So what should you do here instead?
I created a function for it, I'm pretty sure.
You did, yeah,
Let
of
me just
course.
check.
So that's the function you wrote up there.
Uh, Pass starting position. Yeah, pass starting position.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that returns an object with column and row.
Yes.
This isn't C sharp. The first letter is lowercase for parse.
Oh,
Oh, and yeah. Okay, so then now you have an object. Now, do you reckon we can use const instead of let?
yes. Now we can, right?
Yep.
Because we're not checking.
Okay, so now you have a column and a row stored here.
Mm.
Yeah, so maybe because your while loop right now is using total columns and total rows.
Yeah.
Okay, and both of those are stored inside the while
While
loop.
loop.
So they're scoped to the while loop, which is bad because they're not, you know. So now maybe change your code so that it's using knight position instead of using total columns and total rows.
Right. To get rid of this.
So you've still got par's starting position.
Yeah, so we can get rid of that.
Yeah, I don't think you need that anymore. So I would say no. I mean, I would say get rid of that whole section there because no, like these lines here. So these ones, sorry, with 47 to 50 because
Okay.
Because the position, this position here, okay, this one
Mm.
is best described as initial. Oh crap. Let me do Control Alt C. That didn't work. Need to turn on case sensitivity. There we go. This one is only initial position.
Mm.
So when you do yield position, this is wrong as well. Like theoretically, it's wrong, right? Because if you realize that it's not the position, it's the initial position, then it makes no sense to yield that every single time inside of your while loop. Yeah?
Yeah.
So maybe let's just get rid of line 45 for now. So let's
Okay.
just scrap that because we're gonna change that part anyways. And then now the other thing is then you start to realize because look at this. You name your parameter properly. you name it initial position, right, which is the correct name.
Yeah.
You name that correctly, and it makes more sense. Now you start to realize that line 47 and 48 make no sense
Yeah.
inside of your while loop, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's the initial position, why on earth are you doing it every single time?
Exactly.
Right, so you don't need that anymore. So I would say now get rid of lines 46 to 49. So just, yeah, get rid of that part. Okay, so now we've got the meat of the operation, right? We've got 46 and 47. They're about parsing the direction in which you're moving.
That's right.
Okay, so one thing I would note here is you're running the parse move direction function twice.
Yeah, so I could store it in a variable and then reference it.
You could, or you could just do this, right? You could destructure. So get rid of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, much easier. So then you don't need this as well. And I mean, you can keep the long names, but this is fine as well. If you want a longer name, like if you want to say change the name,
Yeah.
you can just do that, right? But I think even columns and rows here is probably fine, given the. But you know, it's up to you. I think this is fine here, so far. So now, wait, sorry, this one goes there. Okay.
I don't know why the tabbing's off.
Yeah, because your things here says space is 4.
Is it meant to be 4?
Save. Okay.
2, yeah, 2.
No, it's 4. So now you've got columns and rows. Now, what you want to do is you want to change your night position based on the given columns and rows.
Yeah.
Yes?
That's right.
So instead of doing total columns and total rows, maybe let's do that now. So let's update night position. So let's mutate night position to change that.
Okay. So basically, I'll get rid of these first.
Yeah, just get rid of those whole lines. Yeah, they're pointless here. So night position dot whatever.
I think it takes in column and yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Columns like that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We can do that.
That should be fine. Yeah.
It's usually always the first parameter, right? Like first option. Yeah. Okay.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Right.
you shouldn't rely upon IntelliSense to tell you what to do.
Okay.
If you are given, no, seriously though, if you were given like say text edit, right, you should still be able to write reasonably good code.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because the name should make sense.
Mm-mm.
Night position has a column and a row, and what you're adding to it is a number of columns and a number of rows.
Yeah.
You know, so like obviously it's very subjective, but what I'm saying is you should hold yourself to a particular standard when it comes to these kinds of things. So you always know like what exactly you're doing, right? So
Right.
yeah, this is fine. You know, like if you have dot column, your other property shouldn't be called dot rows.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If you have dot column, you shouldn't have row position as your other property. It needs to be consistent.
That's right.
That's the most important thing. So night position, okay, so you've added it now. Stringify starting position. So maybe, okay, so why is it called Stringify starting position?
That's what you told me to call it, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, let's check the project. I can't remember.
Stringify starting position.
Ah, so it is. Okay. Okay, alright, let's go back. That's fine. Okay, I thought it might have been Stringify position. Okay, maybe that's a poor name on my part. Whatever. I'm always right. So you've got Stringify starting position.
Yeah.
Column, row. So then, do you need to pass it in an object anymore? Like, do you need to do that?
Yeah, you have to pass. Oh no, because this is already an object.
Well, true. That's very true. So why don't you change that right now?
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Let's just put it in. Cool.
Yep.
Now, okay. So you're yielding the result. All right. Let's go to Hyper. Let's log this real quick and have a look first, and then we'll go from there. Because this is like this still needs some. Okay. So you don't have all right. So maybe change pause. Right. So now we're getting to a problem. So this I didn't see this. Sorry. But the problem here is basically you have your initial A1, which is your initial location.
Yes.
But you need to also pass in, like, you're obviously passing in the direction of movement, right?
That's right.
So what we need to do is we need to somehow get this and use it here. Well, I probably shouldn't call it pos, because pos is a terrible name.
Okay.
If you're parsing a move direction, what should this be called?
Direction.
Yeah, okay, that's perfect, right? Because it doesn't matter what the function is about. If the function is called parse move direction, it only makes sense that it takes in a parameter that's called direction or called move direction or something like that, right?
That's right.
So let's just call it direction. And we'll create this right now. So direction now, we need to define direction. The question is, where do you think we need to define it?
We can do it here, right?
Yeah, do we define it in the while loop or outside of the while loop? I want you to think about this and tell me why you think it's one way or the other.
I mean, do it inside, right?
Yep.
Because
Why?
we're looping through it. That's why.
That is correct. You need to get it multiple times,
Yeah,
yeah?
that's right.
So that's why we have the while loop in the first place. So you're correct. That's right.
Okay.
So now let's do it. How would you do it?
Path direction. Hmm. Well, you can store it in a variable and yield it.
Yeah, you have to use constant direction, right?
Right.
But what do we do? How do we get the value from the generator? Like, do you know the syntax?
It was yield.
That is correct.
Um.
And you need to yield something. Okay, let's just yield the number 1. All right, let's just yield that.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Now.
We don't need this result yield.
Okay, wait, stop. So stop 1 second. Okay, yeah. So you're gonna get rid of that. Okay, but here's the thing. Actually, instead of yielding 1, there's actually something else you can yield here. Which would make a lot more sense here, okay? So have a think about that. What should you yield? Like, obviously, I just wrote 1 because 1, like, what I was thinking with yielding 1, okay, is basically put in a placeholder and put in a placeholder so that we can still get direction because the value of direction is not dependent upon what is yielded, okay? So you can think of it as like a transaction. I give you one thing, you give me something else, but it's not actually related one way or the other. So you have direction equals yield 1 or whatever. Then when we do night.next NE will still get passed into direction. It doesn't matter what you yield to it. Like your console log will be off, but now that you have direction, you can do console logs inside of here or whatever else you need to do. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. So what we're going to do now is, now because actually we don't need to yield 1. So that was my kind of my mistake here is we can actually go one step forward and yield the correct thing. So what do you think we need to yield here?
The initial position.
Okay, so the problem with yielding the initial position is that this is inside the while loop. Okay, like I said,
right.
If you're yielding inside the while loop, in this case, right, you shouldn't be yielding the initial position because you don't care after you move. Like once you move, it doesn't matter, right? So what's the thing we should be yielding here? So you said yield initial position. I say that's wrong, okay, because that changes. So what should you be yielding? Like, forget about the variables for a second. Okay. What do you think you should yield?
We should yield the position like before it, basically.
Position before what?
Well, before this, so like.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, what are we yielding? The position of what?
The
knight.
The knight, yes. So the knight position.
Okay. Now, how do you yield that?
Just knight position.
You would do that, okay, but the problem with yielding knight position like that straight away is that if you do that, knight position is an object, but the output that we want to show here is the string, is the B1, B whatever. So then you need to transform knight position, right, before you yield it.
Right.
So what you had below was correct. Like on line 51, that's fine, right? It's just the positions off. So you just need to grab that. So Stringify starting position, knight position. You just need to put that on line 45. Okay. So the idea here is that you always get the so you can kind of think of it as like your generator is kind of like your database, and it stores the columns and the rows in a particular format. So the format it stores it in is it has a certain number of columns and a certain number of rows, and that both those numerical values, when used together, give the position of the knight. Yeah. So, but then when you yield this position to anything that's looking from the outside, it doesn't care about whether or not you're using like, however you're storing it inside the numbers. It doesn't care. It only wants the format A1, B3, C2, whatever it is, right? Yes. So it wants that instead. So that's why we have to yield it. When we yield it, we use Stringify starting position, and we parse it when we come in. So we have this consistent API language, like even this is like a very small scale API sort of, right? You have like this generator here.
Yeah.
And it demands a particular syntax. So the syntax it's asking is to use A1, to use northeast, to use southwest, whatever it might be.
That's right.
But then internally it stores it as numbers. You see? So that's the neatest way. If you store it internally as A1, B2, C3 as well, you can start to get like a lot more complexity because you're changing it all the time. You can't add A to B. Like it doesn't make sense, So whatever it is. So now that you have this, maybe let's save that and have a look at your output. See how we're going so far.
Oh, that's perfect.
Cool. So we got A1, B3, C2, D2, C4. That does seem to be correct. However,
Uncommon.
if you put in all of the other options, you'll see that we still need to introduce some more complexity here. So this one, you see, we start to get off, and we start to break. Now, the reason it starts to break is because you notice that we actually get to E10. Now, E10 is wrong, right? We shouldn't be able to get there.
Yeah.
So if you actually check the project, you'll notice that we get to, where are we?
Just down a bit.
Here we go. Okay, so you've got up to D8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can you put this, like, can you put hyper on this side here? Cool, I got that. Okay, so you've got A1, B3, D2, C4, B2, D3, E5, C6, D8. Okay, so you're fine up to here, yeah?
Right.
But then yours goes on to E10, which is wrong, right? And then when you try to split null, it's also wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have two conditions here that you failed to take into account. So number one condition is when it goes off the page.
Yeah.
Number two condition is null, okay? So, I mean, what do you think? How do you think we should solve this?
Well, if like so we can say that if the knight position, well, we can check the column, the row, and if it's greater than like 8, then we don't do it. We don't.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's simple, right? It's not that hard. Yeah, and see, this is another benefit of having it stored as numbers, you know, as opposed to other things. Yeah, so maybe let's do that. That's fine.
Okay. Definitely in the while loop.
Yep. So maybe let's start with columns.
Okay.
For consistency, because you've got column in the other place as well. Now the question is it column or columns?
It's column.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to you now what?
Column is then
I don't think that's right.
Wait. Column is letters.
No, column is a number.
Column's a number.
It's a number. 8 is fine, but the logic you've got here is wrong, right? Let's say, for example, you're in a... what do we have here? We had what, D8? Okay, so you're in square D8. Okay, so do you still have the chessboard? Cool.
Yeah.
We're in square D8. So we're here. And we're trying to move northeast. That'll take us to E10, right? But we're currently in D8. Now, is D8 a good square to be in?
Yeah.
Like, is it legal? Yes, it's a real square, right? So we can actually be in D8.
Okay.
However, the move to E10 is invalid. Right? But what you're doing here is you're saying, hey, look, if we're currently already in the wrong position, so you're assuming that the while loop has to come back around again. So you're assuming that because you know what I mean? Because you're doing this above here. So if you kind of go back around, then what happens is you get problems, right? So what I would suggest here, well, what would you suggest, first of all? How would you do this?
We can move it below it.
You can move it below it, but then what I would see is the problem with that is, and that's fine, like you can get it working, right? But the problem with that is that you've already changed column and row. So you've already changed these two values, right? Because knight positions like a database, right?
Yeah.
So you've already changed the values in your database. And then you go to check it. And then if it checks and now it's invalid, you roll it back. So that seems like the wrong process. It seems like what you should do is before you actually set it, you should check if adding it is a valid thing, right? So if you can add, like if the new position is valid, then we actually commit the changes to our, object, our database of sorts, right? But if the change is invalid, then we don't even need to do this part, or it shouldn't even do this part, is what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. So this would actually like go outside, kind of like.
No, that's even worse.
And then.
That's even worse because at this point, you don't even have access to columns and rows.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, columns and rows gives you a plus number or minus number or whatever, right? So you already have that. Now, using that information, you need to find what the column, you need to validate what the column will be, not what the column is, okay? So this validates what the column is.
Okay.
But that's wrong because that causes the validation to
Okay.
come too late.
Yeah.
You need to validate what the column will be. So how do you do that?
So you'd have to add on to it, basically.
Yeah, easy, right? Come on.
Columns.
Okay, cool. So that's fine. Now, before you continue, you need to check columns. What about rows? You need to check rows as well, I assume?
Mm.
Okay, now, if you need to check both columns and rows greater than 8, that's fine. But what is there another check that you need to do?
And if it's null, right?
No, forget about null for a second. I mean, for the number.
Oh, also if it's greater than h, or like,
Well, no, we don't use h in this case. H, A to H are all numbers as well. So they're all just 1 to 8, right?
yeah.
So we've got 1 to 8 for both of them, but you're checking for greater than 8. But what if I'm in square A1 and I try to move southwest?
Oh, if it's less than 1.
Yep, okay. So you need to add that as well.
Or is fine, I think.
You would use or in this case because the problem with using and, so basically, okay, so the logic here is that if any of these one things goes wrong,
Yeah.
okay, like, you know, your knight can't be off the board on the left, or off the board on the bottom, or off the board on the top, or off the board on the right. It has to be completely within the board for both its rows and its columns.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
so that's why you use or. If you use and, it's kind of like saying, it's kind of like, you know, if the knight was completely off the board in terms of both columns and rows, but that doesn't make sense. That's not what we're trying to check here. You know what I mean? Okay, so you got, yeah, okay, so plus columns less than 1, okay, and you need to do the same thing for rows, yeah?
Yep. Whoa.
Yep, okay, cool. All right, now, before you continue,
Yeah.
there's a problem in the code you just wrote, okay? Like, it's not, like, functionally wrong, but there's a better way to write the code. Now, what do you think that might be? What's the issue here?
Storing these in a variable or something.
Okay, that's one of them. There's another one.
Oh, magic numbers.
That's right, magic numbers, yeah?
Yeah.
So, before you continue, what magic number or set of, like, which one of these ones here do you think we should get rid of?
Well, we can do it for both, right?
We can, but the question here is, do we want to do it for both? Like, I mean, because my reasoning is you should definitely do it for the 8, okay?
Okay.
I think 8, to get rid of the 8 is good. But to get rid of the 1, I think is excessive. Now, my reason for that is because I think that the 1 essentially is always going to be 1. And the 1 doesn't really represent a number that can be configured. Like, for example, if you have this project, you have chessboard size, right?
Yeah.
So your chessboard size is 8. Now, if we're in a, you know, we're playing a different game and the chessboard size is, say, you know, 20, for example, or like 15, right? Then that changes the number 8. So it changes that to 15 or whatever it might be. But the problem with the number 1 is that it doesn't represent our chessboard size, but it represents our internal logic. Because the number 1, okay, represents this number 1, okay, it's not the number 1 on our chessboard, right? So let's just say theoretically we had a chessboard that starts from number 5. So it goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay? Let's say we had that kind of chessboard and we wanted to support that. Then still wouldn't be this number 1 because this is how we store it internally, right? So internally, the lower square here is always going to be 1, 1.
Yeah.
Make sense?
That's right.
So truthfully, I would say keep the number 1, but you need to turn the number 8 into a constant. Now, what do you think the name of this constant should be?
Board size, board length.
Yep, board size. I would say board size. I think that's fine. Yeah. I wouldn't say length and width because because the assumption here is that it's square. You can make that assumption.
Okay.
That's, I think, fine. I mean, board size equals 8. Now, I would actually put board size directly on top of your generator. Now, the reason for that is because in this file here, obviously, in this project, we've got everything in one file. But normally speaking, and enter there, normally speaking, you'd have, like, for example, you don't want to have this kind of scroll bar and like this kind of length.
Right.
For example, this one thing should probably be in one file that imports, the other ones and all that kind of stuff. But in this case, we've got them all together.
Yeah.
But still, you should have this kind of idea where, because create night generator is the only one that uses board size, it should go here. Yeah. So it shouldn't go above and where it's not actually being used. Is my point. Okay.
I see.
So now let's use that. Let's use board size. Cool. Now, you said before there was the other change, so let's get that one done as well. How do you think we should do that?
Or we can do it here.
Wait, what are you talking about first? What change?
This change.
Yeah, why would you do that up there? Look. If you're changing this up there, you don't even have access to this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
And you're also not looping, because the whole idea is that you're looping through it every single time, right? So I would say, you need to have access to this.
Yeah.
And then, it has to be above the if statement, obviously. So the only place you can go is line 50.
Yeah.
So put it right there. What would you call it?
Cons. Night position column or something.
You can just call it next column.
Okay, next
honestly. Right? Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You see, it doesn't have to be like night position next column, like succinctness is good, but don't make it too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people like just go const r, arr for every array, const val for every other value,
Yeah.
That's too much, but like don't go to the Java extreme either,
Okay.
So next column, Java is known for being super verbose, so that's what I mean by that. No, you messed up.
Did I?
Yep, line 55.
What was it? Oh.
Why are you adding, why are you adding columns again? Yeah, you've already added that. So
Okay.
So what I normally do, okay, is kind of, I guess, coding tip is, right, so you've got, okay, so you copy that, you put that there. Now what you do is you grab next column. Oh, crap. So this is what you had before. I'll put it back. Okay, so you got that over there. Now you've got next column, right?
Yeah.
And you grab this part, so you go Command Shift left, and then Command D, Command V, right?
Whoa.
Double click, copy, click, Command Shift left, Command D, Command V. Boom. Okay?
Okay. That's cool.
Easy, right? So now, what do you do inside here?
We can just break?
No, you need to check the project.
Or what am I supposed to do? I have to console log.
Yeah, so you don't break, right? Like, you could break.
Yeah.
And that's a specific type of functionality, but we're not trying to get that here. That's not what we're trying to do. So you need to get that. Cool, yeah. All right. And what about line 62 and 63?
What else?
Yeah, you can do that. That's fine. All right, cool. Now we need to worry about let's have a look at that first, and then we'll go look at null later. So let's try that. All right, perfect. So you got the invalid move. Try again. Now we need to worry about null. Okay. Now, firstly, let me ask you this question: where does the null? So go back to your code. You've got scroll down. You've got night.next null. So what becomes null? Like, how are we getting this error? What actually becomes null in your code?
Okay, so yeah, this one basically.
Nope. Initial position is passed into your
Night position.
generator function.
Yeah.
No. It's your generator function. So when you run your generator function for the first time, when you do create night generator,
Okay.
that is, scroll down. Create night generator A1. Initial position is set to A1.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm asking you is, how does this null go into your code? Like, where is the null stored?
Oh,
Like for example,
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
stored there.
Sorry.
Well, it gets passed in, like
Okay, but where is the null being stored? What becomes null?
here.
No, what? Which variable? Which constant? Which variable becomes null? Direction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm asking. The reason I'm asking that is because you need to set up a condition for your null.
Hmm.
That's what we're trying to do, right? Simple, right? You're trying to say, hey, look, we got some specific functionality we need to build
Mm-hmm.
based on this null value.
Yeah.
So then, step number one, find where the null value comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Comes from right there. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, if direction is being set to null,
Yeah.
what do? Because
You don't want
you
to
got to
pass it.
understand. So yeah, okay. So you got to understand that the problem here is coming from parse move direction.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's already going into parse move direction.
Yeah.
Now the question is, do we really want to go that far?
No.
I would say not.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because you're already doing destructuring
Mm.
for columns and rows, and this makes no sense if it's null. Now, firstly, do you understand what we're trying to do if it is null? What's the purpose?
We don't want to go ahead. We don't want to proceed.
Yeah. So what happens when you do .next null?
That makes sense. We want to return true.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. We want to return what?
Uh,
Return the location.
location. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's do that then.
We can just. Oh,
You don't need an else. If you are returning, you don't need an else.
okay.
Because return means stop running,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what do you do?
D8. We can return the knight position.
All right. Let's save that and have a look.
Uh, we have to wrap it.
I'm just letting you run into the wall at this point.
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, it's all good.
So let me just have a look at the function.
Yeah, go on.
Stringify starting position. That's right.
And I mean, the other thing that kind of gives it away, right? If you go back to your code, the other thing that kind of gives it away is that when you do .next null,
Yeah.
the value you want to return is in the same format as if you were doing .next northeast or whatever, right?
Right.
So what that kind of tells you, okay, like it kind of like hints at it, not necessarily the case, but it hints at that the data which you're trying to return should be in the same format
Yeah.
as that which you're trying to yield,
Right.
right? I'm just saying, like, you know, it kind of
Yeah.
is the same way
That makes
here.
sense.
Okay, so you've got the project done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good job. Now, first thing I would say is put some spaces here. The reason I'd say put some spaces here is because you've got new lines down here as well, and it just makes your code easier to read. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So subjective thing, but now our create knight generator function is great. Okay, it's working fine. Now, obviously, you need to remove
That's right.
your useless comments and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's have a look at these functions here because I'm really interested
Fine.
in fixing these up a bit
Yeah.
because okay, so you've got rows, columns,
Yeah.
columns. Okay, all right, and then yeah, I mean this is mostly fine.
Right.
I mean I probably say, all right, let me see. Like. I don't know. I mean, this is okay. This is okay. This is fine, right? But the problem is, why not? Okay, why not just do that? Why do minus equals? Like, it just seems so unnecessary,
Oh.
right?
Oh. Right.
I don't know. It just seems unnecessary to me. Like, you can do plus equals, like that's fine, but like, I don't think you need to. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because like, it's always gonna be
Yeah. Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Because it's
Cool. Yeah.
always
Yeah.
limited to this amount of room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, the other thing I would say is one theme I've seen throughout your code is that you use a lot of this. Actually, a lot of people do a lot of this, okay? Like, you have an array and you kind of do like 0, 0, like square brackets 0, square brackets 1,
Mm.
and all that kind of stuff, right? You don't need to do that anymore, okay? When you kind of do that for an object or you do that for an array, strongly consider using destructuring and see if it's actually possible in your given situation, okay? So when you have like this code here, how can you turn these two lines into one line using destructuring?
Okay, fine.
Nope, not curly braces. Not curly braces, because you're doing an array.
Oh, that was
Right.
the
Yeah.
dot. What was it?
Nope.
That's
No need for that. Let me do it for you.
oh, so it's the same. Okay, same way as object.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's slightly different because when you use square brackets and you do it for an array, what you're saying is that set first direction equal to this thing equal to the first element of this thing, so square brackets 0, right? And second direction set to square brackets 1. So that's what this one line does, and it's much easier to read than two lines like that, And in the above code, technically you had a computational loss because you were doing dot split twice,
Oh, I see.
In that case, you're just doing dot split, but sometimes you're doing like a very complicated kind of maneuver. So it would be much more beneficial to do this, right? And you also get one line.
Yeah,
code,
exactly.
which is
Oh,
really
wow.
nice. Exactly.
You don't have to okay.
Other thing I would say here is you can actually do this. This is more like kind of me being nitpicky, but you can do that.
Yeah. Separate one.
Yeah, use comma. But it's whatever. That's fine. Okay, now enter here. All right, because we've got some spaces.
That's right.
You've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H plus row. All right, now that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean that's fine. I'd say that's fine. Like the way I actually did it in my project is I used a more hacky method. So I used like character codes. So basically, in ASCII, which is the American standard for whatever computer something, information interchange, whatever it was. Anyways, so in that thing, okay, so basically you have this key code for every single kind of like mainstream character, ASCII character. So you have A is equal to 65 or something.
Okay.
B is 66, 67, and so on. So I use that as like a way to kind of get around this issue here. But what you've done here is fine. All I'd say is oh, actually, no, never mind, because you're using it in both. Yeah, this is fine. Split 0 plus 1, split that 1. Yeah, I mean, this is probably okay, but the only concern I'd say is that when you're doing dot split, okay, like it does have a computational cost. So one way I would optimize this or like improve upon it is maybe store starting position dot split like ahead of time.
Okay.
Like you have it split up, or like maybe you kind of destructure up here, and then you kind
Pass
of
it in.
do another and then you kind of do another operation on or something. But this is fine. I mean this to me is okay. Let's go through one more time. Yeah, this seems fine. This is done. Do you have any questions on this one so far?
No, not anymore. Once I knew, like, once you got me like thinking that we have to like pass it in using the what do you call it, object, like columns and rows.
Yeah.
I started to get it. Like otherwise it was kind of hard. Like how do I, destructure and then pass it in again?
Exactly. A lot of these things you need to understand is about communication. Is about choosing the right mode of language. Now, programming in a lot of senses, you're learning one language, which is JavaScript, but your code can communicate with itself and with other bits of code in so many different ways. And the problem is that they're all technically valid and they all have their kind of advantages and disadvantages, right? So you need to understand what is best for your situation. So in this case, because we're doing a lot of number comparison, we're kind of saying, this is our board size, this is what we're trying to do. We need to maintain an internal API, which is number based, right? However, externally speaking, we have these requirements that are in terms of letters, in terms of A1, B2, C3, whatever that is. So we need to make sure that we have a consistent language between our internal API and the external data out there. Okay. Cool. Well, I mean that's kind of it, right? Do you have any other questions? Anything you want to go over?
No.
Before we head off. All right. Awesome. Well, to all of you listening, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Lucas with Better Coding Academy, and see you guys later.
Awesome.